we can all point to experiences in our life leading up to this where we were resilient, where we overcame something really difficult, where we advocated for ourselves. And the more we can kind of tap into those parts of our true essence,
Mm.
then we can bring that to our narrative. And that's the story that you end up telling your children one day.
Hi, friends! Welcome to the Infertility Club. I am super excited for today's special guest, Danielle. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to connect and talk all things fertility.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Oh, well, this will be so fun. Let's go ahead and just dive right into it. Danielle, walk us a little bit through your fertility journey. What does that look like for you?
Yes, so I had a non-traditional start to my fertility journey. I think that, no two stories are alike, but for my story, it's an interesting origin. I met my husband, and we knew on the very first date that we would need IVF to conceive, that our chances were near impossible. So there's a
Wow.
bit of like signing up for IVF in that way. And
Mhm.
there's a bit of romanticizing what IVF could look like when you don't quite know.
Yeah, yeah.
And, there is something about being supercharged for like, okay, if we go down this path, if we get married one day, if we pursue IVF, uh, there was no, disappointment, or I thought there would be very little disappointment, and of course, we tried naturally for a long time, and there was the disappointment, but,
Mm.
signing up for it is kind of how I describe the start to my IVF journey, just knowing that we had male factor and we had some, factors as well for me, so it
Mhm.
was a, "Wow, okay, this is like if we decide to have kids, it's gonna be a very medicalized process," and to know that on a
Mhm.
first date is an interesting way to, like, know where you're starting your fertility journey with a potential partner.
Totally. Wow, that is pretty interesting, like knowing right from the beginning. So, did he share that with you on the date?
Yes, so he shared that he had male factor infertility. I shared that I also had, like, several very, serious medical I have a very complex medical history. So it was something
Mhm.
that we both kind of disclosed, and then it was a pause, and it was like, well, if we decide to have kids, it's just gonna be with the help of doctors. And I think there's a
Wow.
little bit of like that naive energy, the excitement of like, well, like how hard can it be, right? Because you don't really know about IVF until you're like in the thick of it. And
Mhm.
at the same time, it was almost nice to, just be enthusiastic about a relationship and know that, like, okay, that's just what we have to do eventually. It'll be that
Yeah.
challenge eventually. Uh, it's just brought a unique energy to it. I always felt like a more of a challenge IVF than this, like, "Oh, I just got the news." And how do you
Mhm.
grapple with just getting the news that you can't have kids or
Yeah.
finding out that it's you or your partner, quote, "to blame." Like, it felt like us against the world from the start, and that, kinda kept us really united, so I'm grateful
Totally.
for how we, like, started our journey, but it's definitely a unique way.
Yeah, yeah, that really is. I'm like, that's the first time I've ever heard this before. So I'm like, that's really cool though. And I love that you both were open about it and were talking about it and that was something that was like, okay, well, if we're gonna do this, we've got this together, like creating that camaraderie right from the beginning.
Yes, yes, most definitely that, and I think that when you view it as a couple problem or
Mhm.
couple challenge, it just
Mhm.
helps so much more with feelings of resentment along the way, uh,
Yeah.
because otherwise a lot of things can bubble up for people and feeling like their partner should pull more weight or their partner is to blame, and that's not
Mhm.
gonna get you very far, compared to, viewing your partner as, like, your number 1 teammate.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that because it really is like an us thing. And I think that's so many times where it's like, it can feel isolating or alone. But as, if you go into it knowing, like, no, we're in this together, we've got this, like, we have each other's back, let's find ways to support each other through this. It's no one's fault. Like, we're in this together. Let's do it.
Yes, yes.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So you guys knew going in that IVF was going to be probably your best bet for getting pregnant. Did you already have a doctor in mind? Did you do the doctor search? What did that look like?
Yeah, so 88% of IVF clinics in the US are a part of the Society of Assisted Reproductive Technology information database. So I live in the Northeast, and yes, I was already pretty tuned into what a fertility treatment would look like and clinic options. So the next step for me is assembling the right care team, finding the right OBGYN, the right psychologist to support me through it, and picking the right reproductive endocrinologist. I
Mhm.
will say that there's a great clinic up by me, and they have excellent success rates, but they're known for being a large organization, so you don't get the warm and fuzzy feelings, just you get to see a doctor, and then there's doctors on rotation. I will say I've been on my infertility journey for nearly 10 years, and I've only met my endocrinologist a few times because it's always the doctor that's on rotation. It's always the nurse that's calling you back. So that
Okay.
was kind of our next step was, selecting a clinic, just figuring out who's gonna support us through this, and doing
Mhm.
a bit of research on, okay, do I want the doctor that's gonna hold my hand, or do I want the
Mhm.
doctor that, is up to date on current research and is reliable because it's a 365 clinic, even if that
Mhm.
means that I don't get the psychological support that I'm craving.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's interesting. That's cool so that you were able to have a good pick from that though and be able to look at what you were wanting. And so that's awesome. So that's interesting because my doctor, they kind of a small clinic, but you would be with just one doctor the whole time. But I mean, even just having one doctor though, I rarely saw him except for on those days that it was scheduled to have like the embryo transfer or, some of those days.
Yes, I will say I never had my doctor do any procedures.
Oh,
Any
really?
appointments,
S
she was just a touch point to give me access to the clinic, essentially, and anytime I went in, it was lit a doctor I never met, and there was pretty big practice, and they have about, maybe I'd say 8 satellite offices, so you you literally shook the doctor's hand, and it was like, "Okay, that's the person that's gonna do, my HSG today, or gonna do my transfer today, or gonna do my retrieval today." So there's a little bit of a larger trust in the organization that, it would work out, but
Yeah.
yes, the familiarity with one person was not my experience.
Yeah, wow, that's so fascinating. There was a clinic by my house in Utah that's how for it was for pregnancy, and that's how it was where they just had I think it was like 10 doctors, and then just when whoever was there is who you got.
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's awesome. So walk us through that experience. So because did you guys do IUI or what were your kind of first procedures and kind of things that you guys did?
Yeah, so we jumped straight to IVF
Mhm.
and, straight to ICSI. We knew that was gonna give us our best odds, and
Mhm.
despite some recommendations by the medical care team that we didn't need PGTA testing, we did pursue that, and,
Mhm.
for all of its flaws and information that you're seeing now kind of in media, we're grateful that we did our PGTA testing. But yes, we signed right up for the full IVF experience, so I feel blessed that we didn't have to jump through hoops with IUIs, especially with insurances, because insurance companies can sometimes require a number of those to then qualify, but because we had medical diagnoses, we were able to kind of skip that section. But that
Mhm.
meant being kind of thrown in 100%, uh
Mhm.
and learning those physical steps, that first round, is very intense, and it's this hands-on experience, and I would say the first round ends up being one where you can romanticize IVF a bit because you're
Mhm.
so new. You are maybe participating in, like, buying the Etsy T-shirts and eating your french fries, uh, and there's this, like, very romantic perspective on it all, and then you only get that the first time, and then after that, any other cycles, you are the veteran and you're more, jaded and you're more raw and you are grappling with, the statistics and the reality of that.
Mhm.
So, I'd say the first time was this physical journey where you're learning everything, and then everything from thereafter was,
Mhm.
more of a psychological learning, those phases. You become far less naive and more confident, you are aware of what can go wrong, time just kind of loses its essence. And while you can advocate for your needs better, you also are just so aware of
Mhm.
all the things that you really do need along the way. I'd also add that any
Ooh.
cycles after a loss. So we lost our daughter Iris in a miscarriage, and any cycles thereafter as well
Mhm.
added a different level of complexity where you become so much more raw that you find kind of memories and triggers everywhere throughout the process. And in many ways, you are all the more motivated to continue to bring life into the world. And yet, y- you're living with this loss that is going to be lifelong. So you're, it's that sacrificial mother experience of like, I want this for our
Mhm.
family. I want to bring more life into the world, and I'm willing to
Mhm.
risk it all and all the pain, to see that blessing. So I would say those are like
Mm.
the 3 phases that I walked personally,
Yeah.
just the initial IVF experience, then all the
Yeah.
subsequent ones, and
Wow.
then the loss as well.
Wow, that's hard, and I think that is something that many do experience, and it is where it's like those just roller coasters of emotions, and so after you experienced loss, I know that's something that, a lot of times we just never get over, and it's hard to process. How did you work through that?
I would say finding other women who have experienced loss that are
Mhm.
able to honor that it is all
Mhm.
different, but we all are living without our babies. So I would say from a client perspective, but also just from my own personal community perspective, I
Mhm.
know women who have had miscarriages like myself, women who have had stillborns, neonatal loss,
Mm.
and I have a dear close friend who's had an infant loss. And having a community like that where we can sit and be in that
Mhm.
pain together and know that we all are living without our children, where it's not, competition, but it's a place
Mhm.
of camaraderie and support. I think that's the biggest is just
Yeah.
finding the right support system for you, and then I think finding a way to
Mhm.
honor that life in any way that you can. So for some people that is like lighting a candle. Some people that's having a memory box. But for us, it's talking about
Mhm.
Iris and involving her in conversations like this
Yeah.
because she's important to us, and there's other people who have had loss, and
For
those babies' names as
sure.
well are important and should be spoken.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing about Iris, and we love her. Oh, and thank you for sharing how you worked through that. I
Thank
know
you.
there's so many out there that need to hear that and, just find that little glimpse of hope. And so thank you so much. So after you experienced all of that,
Mhm.
what did you guys decide to do next?
I think from my husband's perspective, he experienced pain and saw how much pain I was in. I think he definitely grappled
Mhm.
more about what is the next step. I think for me, I was so hungry to keep going, whether or not that was in naive pursuit of growing our family and not giving myself time to process, or whether that was
Yeah.
wisdom knowing how long the IVF process really is, right? Like, I can heal
Oh.
along the way. This might take another 3 years. Uh, so we had some conversations about it. I think my husband was, far more cautious. I think my husband also worries a lot, as many partners do, as many men do,
Mhm.
that their wives are taking on so much with this, like, medical system,
Mhm.
and they worry about, like, where's the limit and, when do you stop? I think this is true as well for couples who do not achieve a living child and then find themselves in the category of childless not by choice. Is like, is this the end? What is the end post here? Is it a living baby? If I didn't get the living baby, then when am I choosing to pause or to stop? So we had, lots of conversations in that vein, but ultimately it
Mm.
was something that was important to us to keep
Mhm.
going. and that might not be the right choice for everybody, but we took a lot of time to think about that. I think I was more ready than my husband was to dive right back in, but I think I perceived it as,
Mhm.
a way to kinda heal and grow through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful, and yeah, it's interesting because it really can be different for everyone, and I have a a friend Karen who actually just interviewed last week, and she'll be on here soon too, but it was interesting, like, they had taken years off of their after they had gone through kind of a similar experience, and, they were just like, "We're done. Let's not do this again, like, this was just rough," and then all of a sudden, a new day came and they're like, "Okay, we're ready to try again." So it is, it's like it can all be a different time or season, and, you just kinda gotta do what's best for you and your partner, and, figure it out as you go sometimes.
Yes, I agree with that, and sometimes you just need more information, and that information is provided with time to
Mhm,
heal and to think and to reflect and to connect, and that's not the information is provided by more procedures to find out what's the root cause and finding a different doctor and
mhm.
getting a second opinion, and neither are right or wrong. They're both that, I'm gonna collect some data
Yeah,
on this, I'm gonna reflect
yeah,
on it before I make my next move.
totally. So, Danielle, walk us through what did you guys do next then?
So for us, we dove right back in. I and we went back to the same provider, and we asked a lot more questions, but ultimately Iris was a PGTA euploid embryo, and that definitely, even in the work that I do as a fertility coach, that definitely bursted some bubbles. I knew the data. I knew that not all PGTA embryos were guaranteed to become a live birth, but then to live that experience where you had this kind of false sense of
Yeah.
security, was very sobering. So I had
Mhm,
a lot of questions then, about the practice of PGTA. Had some doubts. I think the other thing too is when you have, if you're lucky, where you have a set of embryos that you are
mhm,
choosing to, transfer, you can sometimes feel like you have
mhm.
a sense of power that you shouldn't, right? Is like, which do we transfer? Is it the best graded? Is it a certain gender? Like, and all of those
Mhm.
experiences are not normal. They're not ones that the average couple goes through. They have intimacy and they get pregnant and they have their baby. They're not thinking about, well, I have these embryos and should I transfer the lowest quality one first because I'm the youngest I'll ever be today? Or do I transfer the
Yeah.
highest quality one because it has the higher odds of success? So I think when we thought about our next steps, we just grappled with a lot of how can we use the information that we've
Mhm,
learned through this process to inform changes moving forward. But there's only so much reflection you can do before you are just kind of spinning your wheels
mhm.
a bit. And then you just kind of have to make the jump.
Yeah, yeah, it is so interesting doing fertility treatments. It does bring up a lot of questions and even sometimes dilemmas of being like, I just didn't even know this was part of it. And, even just like the fact of just embryos, like we have
Yes.
embryos that we might not ever get a chance to use. And so it's like, what do you do? It just comes up with a lot of questions sometimes that you're not really aware of until you are in it.
Mhm. Yes. And I think that, this is part of a book project my husband and I are both working on is what do you do with that? Right? These like ethical and moral situations that not enough people are talking about, okay, what if you are blessed with a surplus of embryos? What do you do? And how do you grapple with making the choice to donate to another family, donate to science, to do a compassionate transfer or dispose? It's a unique position to be in, and perhaps the industry, and
Yeah.
I say it's an industry because IVF is a large scale business, right? It's a medical business, but it's a business. Um, Maybe perhaps it's not educating or preparing patients enough for what that can look like. So plenty of doctors do stimulate their patients during egg retrieval to get,
Mhm.
as many eggs as possible, right? We want quality, but some doctors really want to see that quantity too for that attrition. And I mean, I know a woman who have 15 embryos and they can't even process what they're going to do with those. So they choose not to think about it. But the clinics in America are starting to lose space for freezing embryos. So a lot of long-term storage facilities, I mean, granted, part of it's political, but the other is just people are grappling with these surplus of embryos. What do you do with them? So they're transferring them to long-term facilities that can do 5,
Mm.
10, 15, 20, or lifetime long hold, and they are at capacity. And that's like a really, it's an interesting way to consider kind of all of the ramifications for IVF and what every person involved in it is kind of grappling with.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited you and your husband are writing a book about all of this. I can't wait to read it because I
Yeah.
just think the topic's fascinating, not only because I'm involved in it, I've experienced, but it's just fascinating. That'll
Yes.
be awesome. When's that? What do you guys have a estimated time of when that will be wrapping up?
We don't have a date right now, but I would say stay tuned.
I like it. Well, I'm excited. I'll be one of the first to buy it. So, going through IVF, is there anything you wished you would have known beforehand about the process?
Mhm. I would say many things. I would say spending much more time on your emotional health and
Mhm.
on, if you're married, your marriage, your partnership, than on
Mhm.
Google. I think
True.
people are, or now it's like ChatGPT, people are using like AI and Google to get information that's not always accurate. It's not always research backed. It's sometimes misinterpreted. And they're so hyper focused on getting answers wherever they can that they are turning off the connection in their lives to loved ones. They are not really working through some of these really complex feelings. So I would say auditing your time a bit and realizing where you are disconnecting from people who love you. And that includes kind of your larger village.
Mhm.
I would say building a village if you don't already have one.
Mm.
But if you do have one, like fostering and keeping it really healthy, because that village is so essential for you. And I can say it's from my own experience, it's so essential for you to survive and thrive through infertility. That village is who shows up for you when you have a loss, who shows up for you in postpartum, hopefully one day. And that support system is so valuable. So I'm looking
Mhm.
around and saying, how am I fostering connection? How am I staying close to people I love, even if they're not walking the same path as me?
Mhm.
I would say being critical of self-talk.
Mm.
So, imagining your thoughts like a radio and tuning in and changing the station where you need to, asking yourself better questions, asking yourself not why this is happening to me, but where's the where's the hidden lesson in this?
True.
Um,
Mhm.
and constantly deferring out the awfulness of it to just what the luck is. Not that you are a bad person and this was your destiny and you're being punished, but this is just the luck. This is the cards I was given in life, and not taking that in as self blame.
Mhm.
I would say, and I thought about this earlier when you were asking about like what steps did we take. I learned this the hard way. I spent a lot of time on online like support groups and Facebook
Yeah.
groups and Reddit groups and uh, just some pregnancy websites, and I was reading message boards, and I was not just getting incorrect information, but I was getting information for people who are extremely biased, right? Something worked for
Mhm.
them, so you think
Mhm.
it's gonna work for you,
Mhm.
or people are making you promises, "If you eat these many Brazil nuts, it's gonna work,"
Yeah.
and that's just not the case. So,
Mhm.
just being reflective about, where are you investing your time And if it's
Mhm.
online in the digital world, yes, there's great communities online. Like the podcast is a great community, right? That's fantastic. And uh, just knowing that people speak about what they believe to be factual based on what may or may not have worked for them, and
Mhm.
everyone's experience is just so unique, uniquely different. I'd say those
Yeah.
are probably some of like my initial thoughts about, if you're diving into IVF, like what to keep in mind.
Yeah. You dropped so many nuggets of wisdom in there, and a few points that you touched on was building a community. I think that is so huge and involving your community and keeping, your relationship and, where do you go for your information and, keeping that bigger picture with that. I think all of all of those nuggets you shared are so important to keep in mind on this journey and that was beautiful. That was just perfect, Danielle.
I would add about when it comes to Village too is, it's this really slow process of inviting people in to support you, and it's very vulnerable to ask for help. A lot of women that I work with are so high achieving. So when it comes to pregnancy, when they didn't achieve it naturally, like, what is the fastest pathway forward? Because I know when I work hard, I get the result. And that means often these people are archetypes to not be asking for help. But you
Mhm.
can't really make it through infertility treatment without getting help. It doesn't have
Mhm.
to be a therapist or a coach, but uh, it could be a partner. It could be a sisterhood, a previous sorority. Like there are people in your life that can support you. And I'll add to that, a lot of us, I'm someone that falls into this category too. I think, we all do is we go through stages where we say, that person didn't support me through infertility. They didn't say the right thing. They didn't walk it themselves. They don't understand. And you prescribe how you want that support to show up. But the reality is that in our life, we have so many different types of key players that serve different roles ultimately to help the greater good. So I like to
Mhm.
think about a friend in my life, who I love dearly. I know him for almost 20 years, and he's helped me through a lot of different experiences in life. And I will say he has helped me zero through IVF. I've brought it up through, nearly 20 years, and it's my business. Like, and it just there's nothing that happens in our exchanges that I would say is quote unquote support.
Mhm.
And yet, I was reflecting on this, recently. We connect now at this point as adults about once a year, and we just do like a recap and catch up. And recently I was talking to him about um, just on the concept of uncertainty and uncertainty in my own life and how things can change. And he said to me, I still remember you as uh, the girl who experienced significant trauma. So I had a sexual assault many years ago. And from that, I
Oh,
chose to teach in a prison for incarcerated men for 5 years. I felt
wow.
so kind of hurt and forgotten that I decided, "Hey, you know what? I wanna be around a community of people who are hurt and forgotten and have hurt people, and maybe that will
Mhm.
help me heal." So this is kind of a, small part of my history, but he knows me from that experience. It doesn't impact me now. Haven't been in prison recently. So he he called me to that and he said, I think about, who you are, and what he did for me in that moment was, like, call me back to my home, call me back to
Mm.
my essence,
Mm.
and now I think about it, it's like, "Oh, that has shifted infertility for me." Someone that
Mm.
reminds you that you're resilient, that you're gritty, that you've done hard things before. It's not
Mhm.
always that someone holds your hand and says, like, "Yes, you've taken a lot of shots." That's really tough, isn't it? Like, you don't
Mhm.
really need all of those types of statements all the time. What you do need is a sprinkle of things in your life. People who remind you who you are, people who remind you that you've done hard things before, people who stay by your side and bring out humor again for you, help you
Mm.
laugh. People like that matter
Mhm.
too, and they serve a purpose as well. It just doesn't always look like holding your hand while talking about embryo transfers.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing all of that. Yeah, it's really true. I think that's something that I continue to try and work on is just dropping my expectations of what I think people should or shouldn't be doing and, without even realizing that we're doing that and just be open to what support that person can provide, because I know
Mhm.
some people, they might not know what to say or they might not know what to do, but they can show up and watch a movie and eat cookies together or
Yes, yes, yes.
so sometimes, just knowing that they might not be able to show up in a way that we might be thinking, but letting them show up as they are. And then it can create those really impactful and lasting friendships and connections.
Yes, 100% that, because that type of connection is one of selflessness, it's one of just love, acceptance. To sit with someone, watch a movie, and eat cookies, it's like, "Okay, that's easy." No, it's not. Like, it's to sit as an adult with somebody and feel safe in their presence
Mhm.
and not feel like you have to talk or do anything to be worthy, just that you are
Mhm.
experiencing life together. And
Yeah.
also, it's transferable through life. So if you have those experiences with friends, that's a lifelong friendship, and then you see how those relationships and those experiences stack over time. So, um, yes, absolutely, like, people showing up and supporting you the way that they are capable of doing, and knowing that there's no limit to the support that you want, right? You can always seek out more friends or more, support groups or ways to meet your needs, but
Mhm.
not closing down on the connections you currently have because they aren't quite what you expected them to be.
Totally. Totally.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love that. I feel like you and your husband make a really good team together. Do you have any and also too, I did not mention Danielle's a fertility coach. And so she is around infertility in this world a ton, can always working with people through so many different topics and dynamics through it and through your experience and what you've learned. Do you have
Mhm.
any tips for couples going through infertility to bond together?
Yes, I would say, like I already mentioned, being united front, right? Removing the
Mhm.
blame from it, removing the
Mhm.
resentment. The second is, if you need it, getting like high quality help, whether that's a therapist or a coach, someone that's going to help you strengthen your marriage.
Mhm.
The third would be to really lean on humor. So I'm thinking
Mm.
about, heterosexual relationships where you have a female that's going through a ton of medical treatment,
Mhm.
typically, and a man typically, statistically, who's is providing a sperm sample. Now, this is
Mhm.
typical, right? And you have outliers as well where men are having sperm retrieval surgeries. And those are less common.
Mhm.
Humor is so important for being able to navigate uh, really heavy, heavy experiences, heavy conversations, loss, being able to be, like, fun and spontaneous. I talk a lot about this with clients about having intimacy return into your marriage in a way that it was before you were trying to make a baby,
Mhm.
and I would say creating this dynamic between you where you view the other one as someone who's doing everything they can to provide for your family. So
Mhm.
my husband kind of celebrating me along the way for the sacrifices I'm making with my body to achieve a pregnancy, and
Mhm.
me, celebrating him for cooking our meals and going grocery shopping and being the rock and provider in our home for me when I'm down medically, when I need
Mhm.
extra help and love and support because I'm doing injections and I have headaches, and just honoring what both are contributing and not making it a competition. That's a really
Mhm.
long answer, but I think all of those things kind of combined, um, accumulate to keeping your marriage strong. And I
Yeah.
would say this is not because my husband and I have read a bunch of books and do it perfectly. It's actually because we've done it imperfectly and we've learned what works best. Ultimately, your goal is that you have a living baby, right? And then you're in postpartum. But if you've spent so many years in combat mode together,
Mhm.
you lose a lot of that intimacy, that light, that joy, the effortlessness of a romantic relationship.
Mhm.
And in some ways, you become strangers to each other. And it's so important that you are cultivating the marriage you want your future children to see. and you're keeping that kind of front of mind throughout the experience where you're like, if our children were already here and this challenge was something about career or something financial or
Mhm.
some other big thing, like a really heavy multi-year thing, what we want to show our children, taking
Mhm.
that energy, that mindset into, you know, facing infertility together, to keep just that health of that marriage top of mind.
Yeah. Yeah. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. And I hadn't thought about that, but keeping that perspective of imagining like let's keep this romance and this love alive for our purpose that we want to have kids and keeping that like we want our kids to see what kind of relationship do we want them to see and kind of thinking that and having that in a mindset. I think that is a really beautiful and fun way to think too about it, 'cause it can bring back that excitement.
Yeah. And I know someone's listening to this and being like, "How long did you go through your journey?" I nearly 10 years at this point for myself, and I am not sugarcoating it. What I'm
Mhm.
saying is that don't make it so complicated where you're
Mhm.
like, "No, no, that sounds like 52 therapy sessions and so far off, and don't you understand that we just had this terrible thing happen?" Like, "Yeah, I understand that." And, when my husband was going through his process for us obtaining sperm, I wrote sperm jokes of the day. I had, like, a sperm I'm not someone that tells inappropriate jokes, but, like, I wrote them on these little tiny index cards, I'd hide them around the house. It
Oh,
kept it
that's
really light.
cute.
It took about 5 minutes of effort, and it kept our, like, home one filled with laughter and, like, spontaneity. So
Yeah.
don't make it complicated, right? If you're feeling like your marriage is suffering through IVF and you feel like strangers and you feel like you um, aren't being appreciated and X and Y and Z, if you're keeping track of all the ways in which your partner is failing you, like pause. What is something right now that you can do tomorrow to like help you connect more? Whether it's laugh, whether it's to say thank you, whether it's to say like, nope, let's go mini golfing. Like choose something that's just easy, fast, can be done the very next day, right? Not something you're like, okay, well, maybe in 6 months we'll take a romantic vacation. Like, no, tomorrow night, like, go to Chick-fil-A and go watch the sunset. Like, that's it. That's all you have to do. Is
Mhm.
just take action now on connecting with your loved one, and it pays back a lot.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I think scheduling time for each other is huge. That was something that we tried to do through the whole process, and I felt like it made a huge difference. And like you said, they weren't huge things. They were just small things where it was like, we'll go get lunch after an appointment, or,
Yes.
I wanted to go get some special socks. And so Jake came along with me. It's like just
Yes.
finding ways to incorporate what you're already doing and make each other priority for a few moments, and it really makes a
Yes.
difference.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, so Danielle, I love that you are a fertility coach. How come you decided to jump in and be a coach? Tell us about that.
Yes, absolutely. So my career history has always been really interesting. So like I mentioned, I taught in a prison for incarcerated men, and then I taught elementary school, and ultimately I became a principal. I was a school administrator, and
Wow.
this was, a journey of loving to teach, loving to, have a classroom like setting, and it was incredible. Towards the end of it, especially, I was going through infertility treatment, um, and found that a lot of my life was, uh, this, like, other world, and I was loving other people's children while longing for my own,
Mm.
and as I went through fertility treatment and realized everything that I needed, I promised myself that I'd wanna provide it for somebody one day. For me, My my family life is not like my external family life. Obviously now I'm like my own little nuclear family, but previous to that, like I didn't get the support I needed, or the approval from my family, which I think is a common theme for people where they
Mhm.
have parents or aunts or uncles or whatnot who don't understand it, and
Mhm.
I wasn't getting that, and I felt really kind of abandoned,
Mm.
and I knew that my friends who were having children were getting a lot of support. And while I felt like
Mm.
FOMO, right? Fear of missing out because they had babies and I didn't, what I
Mhm.
saw was they had this like village and community that I felt like I didn't.
Mm.
And I just thought like, gosh, I need help now, not just in postpartum when there's a cute baby, not just in
Mhm.
pregnancy when people tell you you're glowing. Like, I need help in preconception, this
Mhm. Yeah.
preconception stage. So for me, it was I searched like for what I needed and had to become what I needed for myself, and
Mm.
then knew that that was all I wanted to do, and coaching was natural for me. I have my certification from NYU. I got that in 2010, so I was already coaching. I was coaching the upcoming leaders of the prison. I was coaching as a principal. I was coaching teachers. So that just ended up being a really natural model for me. But I just knew I wanted to fill gaps that I personally felt, that were painful for me that I was like, "Hey, I can't be the only person that needs this type of support." And some people don't need,
Mhm.
intensive support, but some people really do. And I feel really, like, blessed to serve that role.
Oh, I love that you are a fertility coach because I think that's something I didn't know that it even existed when I was going through the process. And I feel like it would have been such a benefit. I think it's great because it's to be able to have someone who's been there and is familiar with the industry and what's going on. And so it's like, I just feel like it's like having a friend that's there. Because I remember getting my medications in the mail and being like, uh, what is this? Like, what do I put in the fridge? What do I not put in the fridge? It's just like those little details that can get overwhelming and
Yes, yes, 100%, and I think that, when you go into any sort of support group for any issue, so it's not just infertility, but if you're in a support group for alcoholism, if you're in a support group for, gambling addiction, like, if you're in support group for, if people who lose their parents young, right? Um, eh, any sort of support group. What you find is sometimes a competition between people, right? Where some people there's always someone who has it worse. There's always
Mhm.
someone who has it worse.
Yeah.
And if you just operate in just support groups, you can
Mhm.
sometimes either feel like you've had it the worst and people
Mhm.
aren't supporting you and they don't understand how they had it so quote lucky, or you start telling yourself that your experience wasn't that bad and you shouldn't be
Mhm.
sad and you shouldn't be
Mhm.
crying and you shouldn't be grappling with it because they had X and you only have Y.
Mhm.
And what fertility coaching does and what, the work that I do is being able to, and it doesn't have to be a coach. I'll say like you can have a best friend that does this for you. You don't need a coach. It could be someone already in your life, but someone who's really intentional about I'm going to pour in support and serve you in any way that you need, with no strings. And I will never bring in how my experience is quote worse or how I know someone who's had a worse off time than you. Um, I'm just gonna meet you where you are, and there's not enough spaces for friendships to exist like that where, um, people do that. It's not nearly natural, really. We often hear someone's in pain, and we tell them about the time we were in pain,
Mhm.
which there's a time and place for, but with IVF, what often happens is people say, like, "Okay, I went through 6 transfers, you went through 8 transfers, so you had it worse, but do you have a living baby?" And, like, "Wait, do you have the magic answer?" And there's just, like,
Mhm.
this, um, information overload that isn't quite serving you exactly where you are.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that is something nice about having a coach is it's like it's just focusing on you and what you're experiencing and it's taking everything else out.
Yes, yes. And I think that I would say a majority of my clients aren't first timers, so there I do definitely see first timers, but plenty of people
Mhm.
come back as, like, veterans, who
Mm.
are then, like I was mentioning earlier, and this was my experience as well, is, like, grappling with, am I deserving of being a mother? And how do I
Mm.
embody motherhood now?
Mm.
And how do I find myself through this process?
Mhm. Yeah.
And those bigger questions that, your reproductive endocrinologist probably doesn't have all that much time to unpack with you. Though in like a
Mhm.
most perfect world, it'd be great if the doctors that we were working with could meet all of our needs in all sorts of ways because they know us best intimately in the medical setting. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, there's such a high demand, but we just don't quite um, have all that support, and there needs to be more bridges between appointments for someone to support, um,
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh, yeah, totally. Because I feel like it's in the fertility clinics, they just have so many patients and which is great because then it's nice in some ways to be like, "Okay, well, I'm not alone," but then it's also it's hard
Mm.
to get questions answered in time, and it's just, it can just be, this roller coaster. I don't know what else to call it, but yeah, so
That's
it's nice to be able to have someone there to be there with you through the process. So I love that you are doing that and that you saw that need and jumped in when you saw that need. That's amazing. I'm proud of you.
oh, thank you.
Oh, I love that. If anyone wants to connect or reach out to you, is there a good spot for them to do that?
Yes, I think social media is great. I am not the biggest social media person, because it's just kinda not part of who I am. I'm not like a big trendy person. I'm down like in the world of webinars, and my website's a great place to find me. I love to
Awesome.
do like free workshops and things like that. But social media, you can find me on social media, but I am best found like in a face to face consult with people to be able to help them.
Oh, I love that. I'll make sure to link those in the descriptions below as well.
Hmm. Yeah,
Oh, thank you, Danielle. Is
of
there
course.
anything else you'd like to share about your journey?
Yes, I think a few other just very quick things that I'd love to share because I know that anyone listening or has gotten this kind of far is already aware of the things that they can or cannot be doing, and they have that, like, long list of, like, "I should try all these steps," or "I need to de-stress and not do all the steps." But I think pick 3 things that can help anyone wherever you are in your journey. I think the first is that your thoughts become your reality.
Mm.
So, if you are telling yourself that you are alone in every step of the process, your brain is going to constantly be looking for the confirmation around you that no one understands your experience. No one's been in pain like you. And as time goes on, you might look up and realize that you don't have the friendships that you want anymore, or where did that person go?
Mhm.
And this isn't to say like toxic positivity, like that if you think you're gonna get pregnant tomorrow naturally, you will. Like that's not that. But it's just that if you are having the mindset that this is the hardest thing in the world and you can't overcome it, you're not going to be able to convince yourself that you can. And maybe you will, but as an anecdote, but the journey would be a lot more fruitful if you were able to tell yourself an empowering story. So I think the
Mm.
second would be like telling that empowering story.
Yeah.
How you approach a challenge is all based on the identity that you build for yourself around infertility and who you are and how you are the best equipped to do that.
Mhm.
Um, we can become so like hypnotized by the process that we we make it like our whole identity, and then it's this identity of like loss and it's identity of unworthiness,
Mm.
when actually we can all point to experiences in our life leading up to this where we were resilient, where we overcame something really difficult, where we advocated for ourselves. And the more we can kind of tap into those parts of our true essence,
Mm.
then we can bring that to our narrative. And that's the story that you end up telling your children one day, right? Is like,
Mhm.
I loved you so much before you existed. This is what we worked for to bring you here. And end result, and you want to on that journey embody, and I mentioned this earlier, but embody who you want to be as a mother, or a parent team for your kid. And if it was a journey that was 7 years long and you didn't have much moments of happiness or spark or joy, then it's not as likely that when your baby magically appears that you will just feel all this joy. And it's a little
Mm.
bit discouraging to hear. The
Mhm.
transition from infertility to pregnancy isn't that I'm now pregnant and I'm no longer infertile and I feel better
Mhm.
about my life. Often
Mhm.
The transition from infertility to pregnancy is now I have so much more that I can lose.
Yeah.
And I have spent so much time just trying to get this baby in my belly that I don't know if I'm ready to be a mom. And then you're
Mhm.
grappling with that, you're grappling with that, and then it goes into postpartum. People often say, "I had such a medical process getting pregnant. I
Mhm.
wanna have a very unmedicalized process for bringing this baby into the world." But the
Mhm.
reality in America is that statistically 30 something percent of women have cesarean sections, and
Mhm.
they're totally on the way to bring a baby into this world. I had an emergency cesarean section, but
Mhm.
I romanticize this like, "Well, because this thing happened, I'm gonna go this other route," not being
Mhm.
prepared, and that continues with things like breastfeeding or how you plan to bond with your child. Um,
Mhm.
if your goal is to be joyful with your baby, or your goal is to be resilient, if your goal is to show your child one day something about the world and the essence of life, then work on trying to perceive that now and embody that now so that when your little love is in your arms, you are able to just be that because that's part of your habit of who you are, and not just
Yeah.
that now you're grappling with these like very big questions. You have so much
Mhm.
time and infertility and it's a gift. And there's going to be seasons where you are suffering and seasons where you can barely shower, and those are really hard seasons. I find support for that. But then there's other seasons where you have plenty of time to meditate and reflect and push yourself to change your perspective, because ultimately like we change as people through like ultimate extreme pleasure or extreme pain. That baby's going to be extreme pleasure and that's going to drive you, and that can
Mhm.
drive you for motivating factors, but also the extreme pain can also drive you to want to adapt and find ways like, I'll end on this, like find ways to be a mother now. I know like so many women, myself included, thought like I'll never be a mother, and like, where can I be a mother? I don't have a baby. And that changed for me when I was like, "Oh, I'm a mother to a lot of people, to myself,
Mhm.
to my sister, to my friends,
Mhm.
to women in my church." Like, I'm a mother in a lot of ways. And wow, that shifted everything for me because then I brought back some joy. I felt a lot of purpose. And
Mhm.
then I felt like this was just who I am. So when I had my living baby, it was like, "Yeah, I've been a mother for so long." So, I guess those are
Aw.
just a few other, like, thoughts that I always think about when, getting people kind of a advice or something to walk off with is, um, it's really not gonna be about the perfect way to give yourself a, subcutaneous or intramuscular injection, or whether or not you
Mhm.
should have the pineapple for. It's really about grappling with some of these really big questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's really beautiful. And you said something that really touched me. I loved that you said something along the lines of, being that person who you want to be for your child, and we can be that person now, regardless of what our circumstances are or what we're doing. And I love that. And I feel like you have a really great mindset on a lot of things that I could definitely benefit from listening to. So thank you for sharing those. That was just beautiful.
I always enjoy connecting with, somebody else who's, walked the same walk and has, is on the other side. I think that you could then have all this hindsight that is, like, worthwhile sharing with others.
Oh, well, I'm super grateful for you taking the time to share with us. And I'm very excited about your book, and I can't wait to get my hands on it when it's out.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us here at the Infertility Club. Don't forget, you got this. For more hope, support, and positivity, watch this next video.